Count Craftula. Hello, glue gun grave robbers. Make sure that coffin lid doesn't stick to your hand. I'm here to introduce another creepy Craftober classic. You think you've had a bad day before? Wait till you see what's coming up. Oh, I was just thinking of our movie tonight. It is so bad, it's bloody good. It's Gore and Bloody Meat Chunks, the musical. Oh.
All right, crafters, welcome to Craftober. Now, who wouldn't like bloody gore and gross meat chunks for your game? You can have your players come into some horror show and there's gore all everywhere and there's meat chunks and really a nice atmospheric effect to just kind of terrify your players. So let's hit the table and make those easy to make bloody gore piles and meat chunks. Hey crafters, so I've just got an old CD case and I've used my glue gun and just kind of swirled around, made piles of glue on the top, right? Just stick it right to the CD case. Then I'm going to use a cherry red, wet it down a little bit, and just fill in these gore piles with the cherry red. Really nice effect there. Just fill that in. Easy peasy. Then I add a little bit of bright red to it. Give a nice variation. Very gory. Now I'll just cut them out with my scissors. Easy to do. So just cut around each pile. There we go, cool. Okay, now I am going to make the meat chunks, and I'm going to use Model Magic, and I really like this because it's a really light clay. It's not a real heavy clay, it won't crack. I really like it for that. And just kind of squeeze it into shape. After it dries, I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue on it to give it some texture and strength. And these are just going to be the independent meat chunks, right, that are just separate. And so just, you don't have to cover the whole thing, just don't glue your finger to it. Then I'm going to use a toothpick and kind of dribble some hot glue down it because I want the meat chunks to be impaled on these skewers. So I'll do the same thing with the meat chunk, just put a little bit of the Model Magic on there, squeeze it on. You don't have to be a sculpting genius or anything to make these. Jab it a little bit with your fingernail. There you go, nice meat chunk. Now we'll let it dry. Okay, now I'm going to cut the end off, and I've got a little washer here. This is a 1/2-inch washer, and I'll just glue it to that. And fill in the washer a bit. And I made the pole a little skewered. You could have it straight up. I just had it kind of leaning a little bit. And once it hardens up, you just pull it off the surface. And there you go, cool. Now I'm going to do a little bit of hot glue around the edge. Just kind of cover that washer up. Don't get too crazy with it. There you go. Okay, now the same with the other meat chunk. Now that it's dry, I'm gonna put a little bit of hot glue on it for texture and strength. Now we're gonna make the hanging meat chunks. I'm gonna use these hooks, these jewelry hooks, and cut off the clasp part there. And now I just end up with a hook. Nice. And these are these jewelry links. I'm gonna kind of open that up, put the hook through. You can find all this at the craft store easily, or even Walmart. There we go. Nice. We got our hooks ready for the meat. Okay, now we got our clay, and we're just going to mold it into shape like the others. Impale it on the hook. And there we go. Cool. Let that dry up. Nice. Now I'm going to fill it in with some hot glue. And you can glue it a little bit to that hook so it doesn't swing around so much or come off the hook. There we go, fill it in a bit. Nice. Okay, now I painted the meat chunks to differentiate them from the assembly. So I'll just put those, I just spray painted them black. So I'll just slide those on the crossbar. And these are just matchsticks. Glue one. And then the other. You can kind of judge the height. I'm not getting too perfect with it. I'm just judging it. Oops. Some of your problems sometimes the hot glue dries before you're ready or hardens up. Oh, I just pulled the other one off. Okay. Oops. Don't put that back on. Great thing about hot glue. Let it harden up. There we go. We got our assembly. Now I'm going to use some white glue and just kind of reinforce it a bit. Just kind of do it into those joints, and that'll help strengthen this up. All right, cool. Since we just have that little bit that's connecting there, any reinforcement will help. Now I've got some thick cardstock, and I'm going to make a base. I'm just kind of going to measure a little bit, put it next to it, and I'm just going to draw it freehand. Just thick cardstock. Cut it out, and I'll have my base. Kind of round the edges a bit. Nice. I'll just add some texture on here, like ground texture. Just drag the hot glue nozzle over it. That's why I like this hot glue gun. It has a metal nozzle. Drag it over that. Nice, don't stick yourself to it. All right, now I'll glue the assembly on. There we go, we got our meat rack. Nice. Now we're gonna add a little hot glue around the base here to secure the posts to the base. That just helps get a nice secure bond there, because you only got that little spot that it's actually touching the base. So just fill that in around there, and have to worry about it coming off. There we go, nice. Okay, now I'm going to reinforce the base a little bit with some white glue. I like to use a little bit of like a wet brush, kind of put it all over the bottom of the base, and when that dries, that'll give the base a nice little strength. Okay, now I've got a 1/8 of an inch piece of cardstock, and I'm going to cut 1/2 inch sections here, and then I'm going to nip the ends to do little points. And this is going to be iron banding or metal banding I'm going to use on the rack itself. So I kind of bend this over in half, put a little bit of white glue on there, and then put it on the rack where the bar meets the stick, or the vertical stick there. And just wrap it around, and that'll give a nice effect. Let me paint that up. Now I'm going to use these little rhinestones, and these are great for doing rivets. And you can get these at the craft store. They're kind of the teeniest ones you can get. I'm going to use my E6000 as it glues anything. Perfect for putting plastic stuff on here. Just glue that on the banding, and it'll look like rivets. Very nice. It'll be very cool when you get this sucker painted. All right, sweet. Now I've got some skewers here from the Dollar Tree. They look like spears at the top, like heart picks. I'm going to cut the spear point off. Glue these little beads to the top of the vertical sticks. Put the spear inside while the E6000 is still wet. Then I'm just going to paint everything up with the flat black. I'm going to paint all the meat and all the meat hunks and racks and everything black. I'll leave the Gore piles as they were painted. So now we got that painted flat black, and you can see it really comes together when you get all the junk painted one color. So use a burnt umber, and I'm going to paint the whole thing with the burnt umber. Get a nice brown base on there. Let that dry up. Use a nutmeg brown. Kind of dry brush on the base. A nice kind of ground color. Sweet. Now I'm going to use this Mississippi mud. It's one of my favorites for doing like weathered wood. It looks really good. So I'm just going to dry brush this on with a big brush. And don't worry if you get it on anything else. That's okay. We're going to paint the meat anyway. There we go. Now I use some slate gray, light gray, and I'll do a little bit of highlight on there on the wood, like it's aged wood. Nice. Looking really gnarly. All right. Now for the meat chunks themselves, I'm going to use my cherry red and bright red again, like I did for the Gore piles. Now the other meat chunks, I actually painted them pink first, which I didn't do these. I want these to look extra gory. So I just painted them pink first and then used the cherry and the bright red on top of that, like as a wash. There we go. We got our dangling meat. And now I'll paint the base with some cherry and bright red. Make some gore like it's dripping down from this bloody meat hunks. Oops. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to use my gunmetal and paint the metal parts on this. So I've got the banding that connects the rack. I've got the little spear things on the top. Looking very cool. Then I'll paint the hooks themselves and the rings. Be careful you don't paint on the rack. There we go. Now I'm going to use a burnt sienna, and that'll give it like a little bit of rust on the metal, right? Kind of nice. Don't hit it too much, just a little bit. Nice. Sure wouldn't want to stumble on this thing. All right, cool. Okay, now I'm going to use this water-based gloss for the base gore and the meat chunks themselves. And I did the same thing on the other meat chunks, right? I painted the gloss on there after it dried. And the gore piles, I did the same thing. I just painted the water-based acrylic on top of that, or water-based gloss. All right, sweet. It's going to be so gnarly looking. I can't wait to go to the table and show you guys. But first, I got this little creepy little vignette I want to show you before we talk about these things. Look at the meat going, nee, 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 because I've got it going fast speed. It's like, it's funny.
Come here, little one.
Wow, I hope you really like that little flavorful movie there. But here we go. Let's take a look at the scene itself. Here we are with the skewered meat chunks. Really cool. Got the gore coming down the pole. I did, like I said in the video, I did the meat chunks a pinkish color first and then painted the blood on. So not as gory as the other meat chunks. And here's our rack. I love that dangling hooked rack. I think that is so cool. And look how gross those meat chunks look. You really want to play up the kind of, slaughterhouse effect of this, setting, with flies and that kind of thing. Really, just the massacre. And look at the, the gore piles. I think those are really cool, nice and slick looking with the gloss on them. And here's some other meat chunks I did, just separate meat chunks from the, from the rack and the poles. You can put those in the gore piles. There you go. Really cool scene. I hope you guys have fun with this stuff.
If you enjoyed today's creepy Craftober classic, wait till you see our next feature. Count Chocula Gets Murdered, the story of a serial killer.